All right. Hi, guys. This is Mrs. Lyons, and today we're going to talk about double and triple bonds in our covalent compounds. Okay, so what we're going to see is sometimes atoms can share more than just one pair of electrons. And they do this to create double or triple bonds. So we're going to do an example, and our example is COH2. All right, and we're going to do this just like we've done our examples in the past, but when we get done, we're going to see something's a little off. Okay, so we are going to we're going to look at carbon is going to be our central atom. Okay, carbon has 4 valence electrons. It's in group 14, remember. Oxygen, so we've got 1 oxygen and 2 hydrogens. So I'm just going to put 1 on each side. Okay, oxygen is in group 16. So it has 6 valence electrons. There we go. Hydrogen is in group 1, so it has 1 valence electron. All right, so we're going to loop, same as we've done. We're going to loop up those lonely solo electrons and show where pairs of electrons form. Okay, now, if you look at this, you'll see something's a little bit different. We have a leftover electron on the carbon and a leftover electron on the oxygen. Well, what can happen is we can form a bond there, and that's really messy. That's why I do ask you to clean these up. But let's look at what this looks like if we clean this up. So I have carbon with a single bond to a hydrogen, a single bond to this hydrogen, and then I don't just have one bond between the carbon and oxygen, but I have 2 bonds. Okay, and then don't forget on my oxygen there are 2 lone pairs of electrons. Okay, so what this is called a double bond. Okay, it's 2 pairs of electrons being shared, which means there are 4 electrons shared between the carbon and the oxygen. So if you do your count, to see, remember hydrogen only needs 2 valence electrons, so those are both stable. Carbon, if you count each bond as 2 electrons, 2, 4, 6, 8. Carbon has 8 valence electrons. And then oxygen, 2, 4, 6, 8, also has 8 valence electrons. All right, so let's do a second example. CNH. So carbon is going to be my central atom. And I'm going to put 4. It's got 4 valence electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to put a hydrogen on one side. And I'm going to put a nitrogen on the other side. Nitrogen has 5 valence electrons. Okay? So we start out by making sure that we have a single bond to each element, to the central atom. And then what you'll see is we have 2 electrons on the carbon and 2 electrons on the nitrogen. So these 2 electrons are going to make a bond, and these 2 electrons are going to make a bond. So let's write that a little bit neater. And on a quiz or a test, I will not accept this. You will have to draw it with the bonds appropriately between the atoms. All right, so we've got a bond between the hydrogen and carbon, and then we have 1, 2, 3 bonds between the carbon and the nitrogen, and then don't forget we have a lone pair of electrons on the nitrogen. Okay, so this is called a triple bond. Okay, and it's 3 pairs of electrons shared between 2 atoms, which means it's 6 electrons. Okay, so if you count, carbon 2, 4, 6, 8 has 8 valence electrons, and nitrogen 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 electrons, valence electrons. Okay, so when you draw your molecules, you really start in the same way. You just have to figure out, when you get to that point where you think you're done, you might have to make another connection. All right, so let's try this one, C2H4. All right, so this is another one of those where there's not one central atom, but there's kind of 2 central atoms. All right, so carbon has 4 valence electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to connect a hydrogen on each side. Okay, hydrogen has one valence electron. So I'm going to draw a bond here and a bond here. And we know that there has, oh, I almost made a big mistake. I have 4 hydrogens, not 2. So I got carried away. So let's put these other 2 hydrogens up here. Okay, each with 1 valence electron. So then that will be a bond and that will be a bond. Okay, now if we look at our carbons, they're connected with a bond, but then notice that there is a second, there's a second bond between the carbons. Okay, so if I draw this out, I'm going to show carbon with a double bond. Okay, and then I have hydrogens here, 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 and here. Okay, and again, if you have these hydrogens, like if you put the hydrogens down here, that would be fine. All right, so that is a quick little practice to show you double and triple bonds. All right, I will do a walkthrough of the homework here in a little bit, but I hope that was helpful. I will see you in class. Take care of yourselves.